Chapter 1. Divine Pillars. The morning after we returned home, I shared the details of my upcoming promotion ceremony with everyone else over breakfast. So that's why I have no choice but to have a practice match with a rank S adventurer 3 days from now. Oh, that sounds like a wonderful opportunity to go all out. Good for you, my king. No, what are you saying? This is a very grave issue. I don't even know who I'll be up against or how powerful he or she is. Melfina looked at me pointedly. So you say, honey, but you're already smiling. Smiling? I am the very picture of seriousness. The way my fight with Clive in the Forest of Crests had ended was quite vexing, even though its premature conclusion had been due to the interference of a third party. Never again would I make such an embarrassing display of myself. To ensure that, I needed to fully master Boreas' Death Scythe. I was fully aware that this was no time to be distracted by a practice match with a rank S adventurer. So that's why you guys shouldn't look at me with such knowing eyes. Kelni, you do realize you're polishing your staff with that smile still on your face, right? How are we supposed to take you seriously? What? Since when have I been? I had apparently grabbed a cloth and started polishing my favorite weapon without realizing it. With how you're acting, I bet you didn't catch a wink of sleep last night because you were so excited, right? Sarah laughed teasingly. What a child you are, Kelvin. That's not true. I slept like a baby. What's more, I don't want to hear that from someone who got absolutely smashed after a single cup the other day. He did fall asleep 30 minutes later than usual last night. So, that was the reason why. EFIL, my maid's unexpected betrayal left me terribly flustered. Wait, you even know what time he sleeps, Efilne? Falling asleep before one's master is unthinkable for a servant. Managing master's well-being is part of my duty. This is one task that I would never leave to Ellie or Ruka. Efil, the way you approach your work does make me happy, but can't you let me see your sleeping face at least once in a while? No, wait, that's not the issue here. See, I knew it. Think about the trouble you're causing Efil. Efil, we cannot have you shouldering everything by yourself. I will help you with that task. But Mel-sama, you fall asleep almost at once when you get into bed. I don't toss and turn in my sleep at all. Right, Alex? Arf. Mommy, what's Master and everyone else talking about? It's a bit too soon for you, Ruka. Ignore them for now. I get it already. So please drop this subject, alright? Let's get back to the main topic. Main topic. What the hell are you guys thinking, bringing that up first thing in the morning? I sighed before continuing. What I meant to say is, I'm thinking of using the next 3 days to practice my rank S spell as much as I can. In other words, it'll be a training period. Training, you say? What exactly is it that you will be doing, my king? The thing I'm lacking most when it comes to controlling Boreas' Death Scythe is, anyone want to guess? No? Strength. Among my stats, strength was the one with the slowest growth rate. With 189 as the base number, even with the boost that I'd gained from picking up Herculean strength, rank B, I was still weaker than Efil, the frailest person in my party. Although my strength stat was enough for a common adventurer to serve as a reliable vanguard. Boreas' Death Scythe was rank S, and I needed to be much stronger to properly control such a highly condensed mass of magic. Otherwise, my hand would end up wobbling when I deployed the spell, which was exactly what had happened during my fight with Clive. Wait, didn't you already know you'd need more strength from the start? Sarah asked. Gerard nodded. You could have chosen to develop a spell more like the tornado your opponent used, couldn't you? And yet you even went to the trouble of acquiring the Scythe Mastery skill for this. Now there's no one who is Master's equal in mowing grass. Efil, that's not exactly something to brag about. But Kelni, if you'd made it a weapon enchanting spell like your Vortex Edge or my Thunderclap Edge, it would have been useful in a lot more situations. I really can't imagine myself using a giant scythe. Due to how few people have rank S spells under their belt, there usually isn't any other spell that can serve as a foundation for developing a new one, Melfina chimed in. In other words, you must have come up with Boreas Death Scythe from scratch. Why did you decide to create such a spell, honey? I feel like I'm just getting dogpiled left and right today. I'm going to cry soon. You all want that? But, scythes are cool, aren't they? And according to my statistics, a large part of learning new spells is being able to visualize them properly. I worked my ass off developing this one, all right? When you put it that way, I think I kind of get what you mean, Ryan nodded. When I create my own spells, I also have to visualize it first. At the very least, it helps give me motivation. Even in the demon world, people do not come up with new spells left and right like you two do. Very well, I understand your reasoning now, honey. So, how do you intend to increase your strength? Well asked, Mel. But it isn't only strength that I'll have to work on. For now, I'll be relying on this. I plonked my slime buddy onto the dining table. Relying on, Clotho? That's right. I'm borrowing its unique skill, Gluttony. Gluttony was a skill that enabled the user to absorb part of another individual's stats through eating. Clotho had used it on both raw and cooked subjects so far. From my observations, the latter was much more effective. Furthermore, the stat boosts were even greater when consuming stronger targets. Put another way, Clotho wouldn't gain much of a boost from eating monsters weaker than itself. Oh, with Skill Eater. I see. That's right. My strength is relatively low, so I'm sure there are plenty of monsters who are above me, right? Admitting it out loud makes me feel a bit depressed. Ephil, what monsters are in Clotho's storage that are rank A or higher? For rank A ones that can be cooked and eaten, we have the 3 Calamity Rabbits hunted by Sarasama in the Forest of Crests, 1 Gel Prince, and 1 Bloodbear. Then, I am not sure whether it is edible or not, but there is also the rank S Gigant Lord taken down by Ryan Sama. I'm not sure I want to eat a humanoid-looking monster. Plus, I feel like doing so might give me a weird title. I'm fine with the Calamity Rabbit and Bloodbear, but for that last one, I think I'll pass on Gigant Lord. Is the Gel Prince that flabby, liquid-like monster? Yes, it is. Right. Despite its name, it was not springy like Clotho, but pure flab. Is it actually edible? I did come across a description of how to cook it while perusing the records in Turai Castle. It is apparently a high-class ingredient that is incredibly hard to come by. I can't even imagine what kind of dish you'd make from it. Please rest assured, I have the recipe memorized. Ahaha, good luck, Kelni. Honey, make sure to leave some for me, all right? No, I shouldn't doubt. I will trust Ephil. I do trust Ephil. I'm sure that she'll whip up the best dish no matter what the ingredients are. Hollow diamond, 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 hollow. To think it would actually be a dessert and that it would be finished so quickly. After the conversation at breakfast, Ephil had ducked into the kitchen. Once we finished eating, she emerged with a platter bearing plates, enough for everyone, holding perfect square blocks of what looked like agar jelly. It was completely transparent and topped with sugar syrup. The dish turning out so decent, no, not just decent, because it looked extremely appetizing too, certainly did surprise me. When I tasted it, I got an even bigger shock. It really was delicious. Absolutely delectable, in fact. The refreshing feeling of the agar jelly passing down my throat and the exquisite sweetness of the sugar syrup was a match made in heaven. Is this really made from the body of that horrible thing? Before I could even finish the thought, we had already cleaned off our plates. Thank you, Ephil. After eating that, I really do feel the power building up inside. It seems my plan is working. I checked my status. Oops, I'm smiling again, aren't I? With the way to increase my strength confirmed, it was time to tackle the next issue. Boreas Death Scythe. Black Staff of Disaster, my new weapon in place of the Staff of the Evil Sage Tree, was enveloped in magic that formed the shape of a scythe blade. As I expected, it's still far from perfect. When I looked at the blade, I could see that it was leaking magic like a faulty tap. In its current state, the spell would be dispelled after only a few swings. I've got to work on the magic consumption first. Then spell formation. Reconstruction. Hollow diamond, hollow diamond, hollow diamond, hollow diamond, hollow diamond, hollow diamond. I panted heavily. This is much more tiring than I expected. A whole day had passed since I'd begun my training. I had spent most of that time in our underground facility, working on my rank S spell. The only times I went back upstairs were for meals, when I had something specific to do, or when I went to catch a few hours of sleep. At the moment, I was mainly just activating the spell over and over again, and downing MP potions whenever my magical fuel ran low. Although I was doing my best to suppress the output power, I still ended up leaving deep gouge marks on the adamantite walls even when the scythe barely made contact. As a result, the training room that I had fixed up not too long ago was all but wrecked once again. It was clear proof that I was still not in full control of my own spell. I think I've got the feel of it now, though. Let's give it another go. You sure are working hard, honey. Whoa. Oh, it's you, Mel. There was my goddess companion, sitting atop some rubble and looking at me with amusement. Come on, don't surprise me like that. I did ask everyone to stay out for now, didn't I? There's no telling what could happen if my hand slipped. At that speed? Don't worry, I can dodge it with my eyes closed. Ah, ouch, that's quite harsh, I laughed. It was slightly discouraging that, considering her stats, she was definitely not exaggerating or joking. Even though her stats are supposed to be derived from mine. Still, it looks like you're making good progress, honey. Your magic output is much more stable than before and you've become better at wielding it. I still have a long way to go. My final goal is to become good enough to use it freely without touching the walls of this room. Oh, right, were you able to make that thing I described earlier? Ha ha ha, what a foolish question. You do realize you're talking to someone who possesses accessory craftsmanship at rank S, right? I could make one for everyone so fast that breakfast wouldn't even be ready by the time I was done. You say that, but I remember you oversleeping again this morning and heading straight down to stuff your face. Oh, well, but results are all that matters, all right? Sure. I had asked Melfina to create jewelry for the entire party. Clive, the Tricenian general I'd recently fought, had possessed a skill that allowed him to cast the charm debuff on anyone he wanted. He hadn't used it on me, but there was a high possibility he would use it on Ephil or Sarah if he could, leading to a very real need for something that could provide us all with protection. Thankfully, the necessary materials could all be created with either Clotho's metallicize skill or Melfina's alchemy skill. The goddess hadn't had an opportunity to make anything since she'd been summoned, so this seemed like a good chance to let her show off a little. Such a lack of appreciation, even though I spent the whole night creating equipment jam-packed with functions because I thought it would be boring to only provide protection against charm. Mel pretended to cry, even going so far as to say, boo-hoo-hoo, out loud. Isn't that a bit too much? And what do you mean by, spent the whole night? When I passed your room on the way to my own, you were already fast asleep. I saw you kicking your blanket off. Ahem. All joking aside, there's something I want to confirm with you, honey. Sure, okay. You getting that serious all of a sudden really throws me off my game, but, all right, what is it? Melfina looked straight at me, all the playfulness gone from her face. I unconsciously braced myself. After 2 or 3 silent seconds that felt like an eternity, she slowly spoke. About Clive, the man you fought the other day. I'll ask you once again, did he really identify himself as a transmigrator? Hollow diamond, 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 hollow. While Kelvin was working hard down in the training room, Sarah, Gerard, Ryan, and Alex were hanging out at the Fairies Song. Gerard was there to enjoy a pint, since it had been a while. Ryan and Alex were there to meet Claire. Sarah was there because she had nothing better to do. I'm so bored, the demon cried, throwing both hands up in the air. On the other side of the counter in front of her, Claire looked up while polishing her plates and asked, where did that come from? Thankfully, there weren't many customers around at that hour, so Sarah's outburst didn't draw much attention. Then again, most people who visited the Fairy Song were familiar enough with the occurrence to simply go, "Oh, Sarah Sands at it again," before turning back to their own business. Listen to me, Claire. Kelvin won't let me be with him anymore. Sarah, nay, I think the way you worded that sentence is going to invite a lot of misunderstandings, Ryan retorted in her head as she sipped from her cup of juice at her place next to Sarah. He's holed himself up since yesterday and won't let me in. Well, that does sound worrying. Are you two in a stage of ennui? Ennui? What's that? I suppose you could say it's when the relationship between a married couple grows stale and they get tired of each other. What are you saying, Claire? Kelvin and I aren't married. That's not the issue here, is it? Gerard retorted in his head as he sipped his mug of hard liquor at his table in the back. And there's no way I'd ever get tired of Kelvin. That's not it. He said that he'd be training, so I offered to help him, but he turned me down because it'd be too dangerous. He wouldn't even spar with me. Oh, that's what you meant, Claire murmured, looking slightly disappointed. That's why I'm so bored now. Isn't there anything to do? Sarah wailed as she planted her face onto the counter dejectedly. You love fishing, don't you? Why not do that? Going fishing when Kelvin's working so hard seems unfair. Isn't aimlessly killing time here the same? Alex retorted in his head as he gnawed on a bone from his place underneath Ryan's jaw. I've got it. Sarah suddenly leapt up from her seat, shouting so loudly that Alex reflexively pressed his ears down with his paws. There is a way to keep myself entertained and help Kelvin at the same time. Gerard, Ryan, Alex, let's go. Hold on, where are we going, Sarah? Nay. But I wanted to kick back with a drink today. Both the hero and knight felt somewhat troubled by the sudden request. However, Sarah had such a bright smile that neither one could find it in themselves to turn her down outright. Since he couldn't verbalize his refusal, an alternative plan immediately sprang into Gerard's mind. He stood up, bottle in hand, and approached her. The alcohol percentage of what he was drinking was extremely high, making the liquid quite volatile. Sadly, his idea fell through. Instinctively clapping a hand to her nose and taking a step back, Sarah said, Gerard, don't even come close to me with that bottle. You'll make me drunk from the fumes alone. In that case, you should properly explain to us what it is you're thinking of doing. I'd appreciate that too, Sarah. Nay. At the moment, I'm not sure what's going on. As Ryan tried to smooth the situation over with her characteristic laugh, Sarah replied, Oh, all right then, and proceeded to offer them the specifics. What I've thought of is, in short, harvesting food ingredients. Harvesting food ingredients? Harvesting food ingredients? That's right. And not just any common ingredients. I'm talking high-ranked ones that'll make Kelvin happy. So, You mean something like a blood bear? Ah, I see what you're getting at, lass. But don't we already have a stock of rank A ingredients back at the house? To my knowledge, that should be enough to last until at least the day after tomorrow when the ceremony takes place. You're not thinking far enough ahead. Unlike Clotho, Kelvin has a limited appetite, which means it's the quality that's most important, not the quantity. And even when it comes to quantity, sure, what we have in the stores should be enough, for Kelvin's portion alone. But have you forgotten the presence of the glutton in our house? It looked like she held herself back from asking for seconds yesterday. But do you think she'll be able to bear watching someone else eat dishes that Ethel cooked with rank A ingredients until the ceremony? Both Ryan and Gerard were silent, unable to come up with valid objections. Although a small part of them thought, come on, she can't be that bad, they could not dismiss what Sarah was saying. They knew Melfina's passion for eating all too well. I can't say no with much confidence. Now that you mention it, Melne was looking at his meal very enviously after eating her own portion last night. Now we're on the same page. Claire looked rather amused. What's this? Does that new girl really eat so much? If that's the case, bring her here someday, I'll let her eat as much as she wants. Claire San, please don't do that. Ryan interrupted. It would hurt my conscience. It's that bad, is it? Oh, now that I think of it, she's already come here once. She certainly did make an impression. What? She did? All I can say is, I'm very sorry. Not long ago, Melfina had earned the shameful title of gluttonous goddess. There was no way Ryan was going to let her cause anyone else any trouble. Partly to alleviate that fear, let's go hunt rare monsters. We'll be ensuring that Kelvin has enough to eat, and it would help me to get this feeling off my chest. Two birds with one stone, Sarah exclaimed, clenching her fist in a display of enthusiasm that quickly infected Gerard and Ryan and prompted them to stand up. When you put it that way, I can't refuse, can I? Let's do this. I didn't get to do anything at the Village of Elves, after all. Since it's for Kelney's sake, I'm on board too. Alex, time to go. Claire San, here's my payment for the meal. Thanks for your patronage. Take care of yourselves out there. After everyone finished settling up, the group left the Fairies' Song. Their destination: the Adventurers Guild. First order of business, let's go gather information. Hollow diamond, 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 hollow diamond. And that's why we're looking for a dungeon filled with monsters that are ranked A or higher. There is nowhere that dangerous in these parts. There are no urgent subjugation quests at the moment, either. Upon marching into guild headquarters in high spirits, Sarah immediately spotted Villager A, Ange, and promptly went over to ask about a dungeon where high-ranked ingredients could be procured. Ange was currently in her standard work mode. You see, a certain party completely annihilated the rank B dungeon, Sangria Forest, not all that long ago. To find a place even more challenging than that, you would have to cross the border into one of our neighboring countries. Ah, really? Sarah looked extremely disappointed. In contrast, Gerard and Ryan didn't seem the least bit surprised. After all, the moment a single rank A monster showed up in Parth's vicinity, Kelvin would be notified of an emergency quest. No such news had reached them lately, so visiting the guild in person was hardly going to make a difference. In that case, I suppose we'll have to go abroad, then. If we don't stop to rest, we can reach somewhere about the same distance as the Forest of Crests in half a day, making a round trip one full day. Adding in time for exploration. The former demon princess had already shifted gears to thinking up Plan B. Clearly, giving up on her idea was not an option. As she muttered furiously to herself, Ryan took the time to look around the guild. It's pretty busy today, isn't it? Although the place was normally bustling, what with it being the hub for all adventurers in the city, it seemed to be even more alive than ever. In the room behind the counters, Ryan spied the figures of guild staff with bottles of smelling salts on hand tackling piles of paper. There were also more receptionists than usual, handling a large number of adventurers who were lining up to consign items. Ange seemed somewhat exhausted herself. Everyone on the staff roster is being mobilized to prepare for Kelvin San's upcoming Rank S promotion. On the day of the ceremony, the streets will be enveloped with revelry, and important VIPs from various countries, not to mention famed adventurers, will be visiting to catch a glimpse of the new Rank S member. Guildmaster Rio is also rushing around in a flurry. We're delegating a lot of the physical work and the gathering of things to the adventurers by issuing them as quests. Really? Nobody told us. Kelvin San, and all of you by extension, are the guests of honor. How can we ask you to help with the setup? Furthermore, we've made it so that those who complete more of our tasks get priority seating for the practice match. Considering how rare it is to see two Rank S adventurers duke it out, everyone is being quite competitive about completing their quests. Oh, there will be special seats prepared separately for you and your party, Ryan San, so don't worry about that. Yay, thank you. Has the Rank S adventurer Kel Ni will be fighting arrived already? Ange flipped through some documents on her table. Looks like she's scheduled to get here tomorrow. Her name is... Bam! Ange's words were interrupted by the door of the building being thrown open with almost enough force to tear it off its hinges. A party of adventurers pushed their way inside in a panic. Some of them collapsed on the spot as others drew deep, ragged breaths, making it clear that they had pushed themselves to get there fast. It's terrible, huffed the man who was likely their leader. His mithril equipment identified him as a Rank C adventurer. Whoa, what's with the frenzy? Catch your breath first, man, said someone nearby. It's a dungeon. Some monsters tunneled a huge path that opened up a whole new dungeon. Seriously? The unexpected news plunged the guild into chaos. The dungeon being a new discovery meant that no one had explored it yet and that it was entirely untouched. The absolute absence of information made it an especially dangerous place. But in exchange, it was also an opportunity to make a quick killing by sweeping up the rare items and treasures that lay within. It was only natural that the adventurers would become extremely agitated. That's definitely a big deal. Hey, man, where is this new dungeon? Forget it, man. That place isn't somewhere any of us can handle. You say that, but I bet you're thinking of getting a head start on the rest of us and stealing everything for yourself, aren't you? That's not what I'm saying. Listen to me. The man who had made the announcement was inundated by questions from those around him. Everyone was eager to be the first to clear the new danger zone. Guys, please calm down. Let's listen to what Heath San has to say. Ange shouted from her position between the man and the others after having somehow made her way there without anyone noticing. Heaving a sigh of relief, Heath said, "Thank you for saving me, Ange-chan. Don't worry about it. And remember, everyone. If you go to explore this new dungeon right now, you likely won't make it back for the practice match the day after tomorrow." Oh, right. I'd forgotten. Sorry. Ange was relieved to see the crowd calming back down. However, her duties as guild staff were only just beginning. She would have to extract as much information as possible regarding the new dungeon to determine exactly how dangerous it was. In light of how much work she already had, she felt the urge to clutch her head and scream. But doing so wouldn't change the fact that this wasn't an issue that could be put off, as it could end up affecting the upcoming festivities. Unfortunately, Rio was out for the day to make arrangements for the ceremony, which meant the staff who were present had to deal with it themselves. Heath San, would you mind telling us what you know about this place? It's located inside the Rank C dungeon to the east, Clayworm Passages. We were exploring the place as usual when we spotted a giant mole digging a hole. We followed it and defeated it, that part was fine. But the tunnel it had dug just before we killed it opened up into a huge cavern where we spotted ancient-looking buildings and a monster we've never seen before. Moi, from my party, possesses Analyze Eye, but the moment he tried to use it on that thing, he fainted. My danger detection was going off like crazy too, so we retreated before we were noticed. Sorry for letting you down, Heath. Please, if I hadn't carried you on my back and gotten out of there ASAP, we would both be dead meat by now. So, Moi woke up sometime on our way back to Parth. From what he told me about the creature's status, there's no doubt it's Rank A. Rank A? Exclaimed many of those present. Up until then, the most dangerous dungeon in Parth's vicinity had been Rank B. Alarm rippled through adventurers and staff alike. A dungeon within a dungeon, this is extremely dangerous and needs to be announced immediately. There might be other adventurers still inside Clayworm Passages. But none of us can handle a Rank A monster. Even approaching this place to fill in the hole sounds extremely dangerous. In that case, there's no choice, let's issue Kelvin-san an emergency quest. The staff all nodded in agreement at Ainge's suggestion. None of the adventurers had any objections either. So, where in the east is this new dungeon? Were you not listening to what Ainge-chan said? This is a job that only Kelvin-san, the strongest adventurer in Parth, can handle, Heath replied in a vexed voice, turning around only to stop short. There stood a jubilant Sarah, her arms crossed and her chin tilted up as if to say, "Go on, I'm listening." A hulking knight and a cute girl could be seen standing behind her. Sarah-san? And Gerard Dono and Ryan Chan too? Kelvin's at home right now, but he's busy. As members of his party, we'll go in his stead to explore this dungeon for you. After all, we're guaranteed good seats even if we don't help with any of the preparations. Go on, give us all the information you know. The girl's overbearing presence left Heath feeling slightly bewildered. He turned to look at Ainge. If it's those three, I'm sure they'll be able to handle it without a problem. Since the guildmaster is currently absent, we'll issue the emergency quest ourselves. You sure about taking this on, Sarah-san? Leave it to us. We'll clear it today. Ahaha, that does sound reassuring. So, Sarah-Nay did hear about our seats, Ryan thought wryly. As Heath shared everything he knew with them, the rest of the adventurers scattered to return to what they had each been doing. The tension that had been so palpable just moments before had completely dissipated, the hustle and bustle returning to normal in short order. After all, everyone present was thinking the same thing. If Sarah-san and the rest are on the job, then there's nothing to worry about. And that's all we got, Heath eventually concluded. Is it enough? As long as we know the location, we'll make do, Sarah replied, accepting the hand-drawn map and checking the time. Our target is the boss monster. The other Rank S adventurer arrives tomorrow, so let's hurry, you two. We'll get back in time for dinner and surprise Kelvin. Sarah, lass, let's not forget to lend a hand if we encounter other adventurers inside. Gramps, is it just me or are things proceeding in a way that's weirdly convenient for Sarah-Nay? Her luck stat is already higher than that of the heroes. In a way, I suppose this was inevitable. Come on, guys, let's get going. Sarah called over her shoulder, seeming ready to take off then and there. Sarah-Nay, we're still in our casual wear. We'll have to at least return to the house to get changed first. Hollow diamond, hollow diamond, hollow. Sarah and Ryan quickly made their way back home to don their adventuring gear and throw their weapons into Clotho's storage. After confirming through the network that Kelvin was still down in the training room, they hurried back out before anyone noticed. Along the way, Sarah made sure to leave word with Ephil, who was in the middle of hanging up laundry outside. "Ephil, get fired up for tonight's dinner." "I'm sorry?" Of course." Paying no attention to the maid's puzzled tilt of her head, Sarah rushed off at top speed. "I wonder what has happened." Shrugging it off, Ephil returned to the task at hand, her mind already on a fired-up menu for that evening's dinner. Hollow diamond, hollow diamond, hollow. After meeting back up with Gerard in town, the group set out for Clayworm Passages. The dungeon was a bit of a distance from Parth, but for those three, it barely took 10 minutes on foot. They soon found themselves facing a cave opening roughly 3 meters in height that did look like a tunnel burrowed by a gigantic monster. The sunlight didn't penetrate the darkness too far, but there were torches set up at intervals inside. Strangely enough, the torches did not appear to be burning down. "We're here. That was an acceptable travel time, I suppose," Sarah said, casting an eye over the torches. I feel a bit of magic coming from these." "They might be magic items, then," Ryan replied. "My guess would be that adventurers have been topping them up with magic as they pass by. It doesn't seem like I'll need to cast Lambent." Gerard looked around. "Nothing seems out of place here, at least." Sarah activated her various detection skills and confirmed that there was indeed nothing of note around the cave opening. However, a very strong presence lay farther inside. "This doesn't seem like a mere rank A monster. It might even be rank S." "Yay. Jackpot, Sarah nay. I feel myself suddenly filled with motivation upon hearing such news. Let's brace ourselves and do this." With Gerard taking point, Sarah, Alex, and Ryan followed close behind. The idea was that Gerard was in charge of pushing forward and taking on anything that appeared from the front, while Sarah would warn the others about any surprise attacks or traps. The passage continued flat and straight for a while, but started sloping downwards after a while. From there, numerous side passages began appearing on both sides, turning the place into a true labyrinth. "This way." Sarah was choosing their turns based on the presence she was sensing. She had yet to make a wrong call, as evidenced by the fact that they were steadily drawing closer to their goal. It was slightly worrying that the presence didn't seem to be moving at all, almost as if it were lying in wait for someone or something. "Gerard, a monster will be jumping up from the ground 5 steps forward." "Understood." When Gerard reached the spot Sarah had mentioned, a clayworm did indeed leap out to assault him. He inhaled lightly and bisected the beast the instant it appeared. "Oh well, there's no point overthinking it. I'm sure everything will be clear once we see this thing in person." Sarah thought as she backhanded another clayworm closing in from overhead without even turning to look.